Okay, homework 31. We are solving trigonometric equations involving an angle multiplied by a constant. So we have something like 2 sine of 1/2 x equals -1. Again, oops, you are going to want to have your tables handy so that you can look up your values as you go. So make sure you have that table. You'll need that a lot. So over here, what we're first of all going to do is solve this. And so I'm going to have 2 sine of 1/2 x equals a positive 1. So sine of 1/2 x equals 1/2. What we're going to do is look up where the sine of x equals a half, and then go from there and set this equal to each of our values. So looking here, where does the sine of x equals 1/2? At pi over 6. And if I look down, 5 pi over 6. So normally what we have is pi over 6 plus 2k pi and 5 pi over 6 plus 2k pi, with of course k being an element of z. However, we are now going to say, instead of this answer, 1/2 x is equal to that answer. And so what we need to do to solve these is multiply by the 2 to get the x by itself. So we're going to times 2, same thing down here, times 2, times by our 2. So when we times by 2, 2 times pi over 6 would be pi over 3, plus 2 times 2k pi would be 4k pi, with k being an element of z. So I distribute that and take the 2 times the this and 2 times this. Same thing here. When I multiply this by 2, the 2 would cancel out with that, make that 5 pi over 3, plus 2 times 2k pi would make that 4k pi, with k being an element of z. So I'm going to have those two answers, pi over 3 plus 4k pi with k being an element of z, or 5 pi over 3 plus my 4k pi plus k being an element of z. So solve it like you normally do. Find or put x in there. Once you get your answers, then you're going to replace the x with whatever's in the parentheses here and solve it from there. So if we look at number 2. Number 2, if we solve that, we would have the tangent of 1/2 x equals square root of 3. So we're going to look up, where does the tangent of x equal the square root of 3? Tangent equals square root of 3 at pi over 3. It's also equal to the square root of 3 at 4 pi over 3. But remember, tangent normally has a period of pi, and so we usually combine that into one answer as pi over 3 plus just k pi, with k being an element of z. So in this case then, we are going to say 1/2 x equals that. In order to solve it for x, we're going to times by 2. So I'm going to have 2 pi over 3 plus 2k pi, with k being an element of z. And that's going to be my answer. So on number 3, if we go ahead and solve that one, we would say 2 sine of 2x equals -1. So the sine of 2x is going to equal -1/2. Again, we're going to look up, where does the sine of x equals -1/2. And so looking at my paper, -1/2 would be at 7 pi over 6, and -1/2 is also at 11 pi over 6. Again, we can't combine those into two answers, so we are going to say this time we have a 2x here. 2x can either equal 7 pi over 6 plus 2k pi, with k being an element of z, or 2x is going to equal 11 pi over 6 plus 2k pi, with k being an element of z. So if we're going to solve these ones, we are going to divide by 2, which is multiplying by 1/2 in order to solve those. So we're going to take half of those. So in this case, I would have 7 pi over 12 plus here 2 and 1/2 is going to make that just 1k pi or just k pi, with k being an element of z. Here I would get 11 pi over 12. Again, when I take the 2 times the 1/2, it just gives me 1. So I just have k pi with k being an element of z. So 7 pi over 12 or 11 pi over 12 plus k pi with k being an element of z.